When I talked about benefit programs, how extensive they are, I was pretty serious on it. I took the programs that are out there, broke them into two sections, and you'll see there's a lot. If you work in the area of human resources, if you master this area, all of a sudden you become valuable. People come streaming over to you. Can you explain this to me as you go through? Not even just the regular employees, but a lot of HR people too, because they're so complex sometimes you don't even know because there's so many different things happening. A lot of times we think HR is, oh, that's just the people, they hire people as you go through. Well, you know what? That really is about 70 to 80% of the job. But this other 20% is huge. When somebody has an ailing family member, the only thing they're thinking about is how do I help them? Does my insurance package cover this? I don't understand this copay over here. Why am I doing this? The HR specialist and the HR professional that deals with this benefit area really helps an awful lot of people, and they become very valuable to the organization because they help employees as you go through. This is a big deal. If you have an expertise in this area, you are a sought after commodity as you go through. Let's go through some of the benefits they have. Really, Social Security was established in 1935, and it really was old age insurance as you go through. Of course, none of us are old as you go through. I've heard that 60 is the new 40, and maybe 70 is the new 50, and maybe 100 is the new 80. I don't know. But that being said, old age insurance, by the time you're done, we had a crisis during the Depression. Congress did something that's long-term, but anytime Congress does something, it becomes much bigger. So really, Social Security has gone well past the original parameters into really a major issue, but it does provide checks on a regular basis to people, and we'll cover about how it handles that as you go through shortly. Also, another part of the social net is unemployment insurance. Sometimes people get bumped off and they're out there looking for work and everything else. And we have a safety net called unemployment insurance. There's survivor's insurance. There's disability insurance. Also, they actually have a thing called hospital insurance, is Medicare Part A as you go through, as well as supplementary medical insurance. No, we're still a capitalist country as you go through, but we have developed a thing called a social safety net that really does provide assistance at certain major crisis points in our lifetimes as Americans as we go through. Let's cover some of these. Social Security, it covers about 90% of US employees. There are some people who don't pay into Social Security and don't get the benefit as you go through as well. Typically, if you paid into Social Security, your benefits, you can start drawing at 65 years and 6 months for full benefits, or at age 62 with reduced benefits as you go through. Really, the income coming in from it is generally free from any state or federal taxes. There's no taxes on that. So really, it is raw money to actually spend as you go through. And you pay for it with payroll taxes called FICA as you go through. So FICA, you pay a portion, your employer pays a portion, and that goes to sit down there and cover long-term Social Security. So it's an insurance package that you paid into, and you have a legal right to actually draw from it as you go through. So don't be afraid of applying for it. You're not hurting anybody because it came out of your pocket and your employer's pocket as you go through. We also have unemployment insurance. This is paid for by your employer as you go through, and it really is from lost income from involuntary unemployment. So it wasn't your choice as you went through. So it helps unemployed workers find new jobs and provides a little bit of cash as you go through while you're looking for the job. And it lasts for several months in the process, and it depends what your state is actually providing as you go through. It provides also an incentive for employers to stabilize employment. The employers are paying into an unemployment fund over here. So that being said, they're paying into it as you go through. And also because of the fact they're paying into it, the more people they lay off, their rate goes up. So there's an incentive not to lay a bunch of people off because you're going to pay more taxes as you go through. It prefers investments in the worker skills because it provides income during short-term layoff as you go through. Coming from Michigan and the metropolitan Detroit area is a huge area where factory workers working on cars, they get laid off every summer when they do what they call model changeover. They'll lay people off. They have a thing called the sub fund and everything else where they pay 90% of their salary. But that being said, this short-term layoff while they do the changeovers, it provides income for those people that are not actually true car manufacturers, but they support people as you go through. So it provides that as you go through on a short-term basis. So It really is financed by the employers as you go through. You also have to have a prior attachment to the workforce to collect unemployment. You have to be available for work, and you have to register with your local unemployment office to let them know you're looking for work, and they will send you on job interviews. And if you don't go, they'll cut off your unemployment. There's some qualifications for it. And also, if you weren't discharged for a cause, in other words, you were bad at work, if you were terminated for cause, you didn't quit because your boss didn't like you or you didn't like your boss, and you're not out of work because of a labor dispute, then you're eligible. Those are three criteria that would disallow unemployment. If you have somebody that leaves your work of employment, you will probably, and they file for unemployment, if you are working in HR will get a letter to verify what is the reason they're no longer working for you. And it's a questionnaire, and you have to fill out and be honest about it as you go through. So by the time you're done, they'll ask you also in the survey how much they were making, and that person will get 50% of their earnings for 26 weeks. Occasionally, when you have a national crisis, Congress may extend that and provide more money to the state, or the state may extend it longer than 26 weeks. But this is a standard basis of 50% of earnings for 26 weeks as you go through. Workers' compensation, this is a benefit, and this is one of those moments where you can credit unions going way back for pointing out the problems to Congress, and Congress actually responded and did something pretty good as you go through. And I don't say that very often. Workers' comp really covers a lot of different things. If you're injured on the job, number one, workers' compensation is a protection for the employer to keep from the person that got hurt from suing the employer as you go through. It provides a very specific format. Literally, there's courts that handle workers' compensation benefits as you go through. And there's actually a chart that shows value for different body parts as you go through. I kid you not, if you go through, you lose your little finger in a work-related injury, there's actually a chart that says you're awarded this amount of money for either, you can choose a permanent disability, or you can sit down there and get a lump sum payment. That's how it works as you go through. If you lose the ability to use your left arm because of an injury, there's a price for that. And if somebody dies, there's a price for that as well. Who says you can't put a price tag on life? Apparently, workers' comp does as you go through. So it covers job-related injuries and death. It really is no-fault liability to the employer, and it protects the employers, and they're immune from lawsuits as you go through. 90% of U.S. workers are covered by workers' compensation. Big picture-wise, it's a fabulous thing to help improve the social safety net that we have in the United States. There's 4 categories. This only applies, this will not be on a test as you go through, but that being said, for your purposes, this section and this chapter is really valuable, big picture wise, long-term, especially when working in human resources. Disability income. If you're disabled partially or completely, there is a percentage of your wages that will be paid to you long-term as you go through. It helps with medical care. It helps with death benefits as you go through, and also rehabilitative services in the process. There's a ranking system that has employers to make workplaces safer. It's a challenge to assess and manage workplace injuries. It's pretty common on a regular basis for the executives at Human Resource to sit down with their workers' comp carrier 4 times a year on a quarterly basis and review all the different aspects of what's going on. It'll cover anything from something simple like a repetitive motion thing where somebody has carpal tunnel and the wrist hurts from constant typing as you go through on the keyboard, all the way to somebody falling off a ladder or something even worse than that. So on a regular basis, workers' comp is a big thing. Here's medical insurance as you go through. I want you to know this specifically is called COBRA, the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. Nobody remembers what it means, but COBRA, what that means is if you're working for an employer and you have a nice insurance package, you go work for somebody else, you have a legal right to pay the cost of that insurance package back to this employer for up to 3 years as you go through. It really is handy in case you're in transit between employers. Sometimes you may have a waiting period at the new place to pick up your insurance over here. You may have some pre-existing condition over here. You want to make certain it's fully covered over here in your new job as you go through. So it's called COBRA. It's a matter of you can pay for the insurance of your last employer for up to 3 years as you go through. You also have different things in disability insurance that you can pay for yourself it insures your income in case you're disabled, and it'll pay above any kind of workers' comp as you go through. So this part of benefits, Social Security covers 90% of U.S. employees, begins at 65 and a half. There's another clause for 62. Unemployment insurance, all the different qualifications as you go through, make certain you sit down when you understand in human resources the different areas. You can't get fired, you can't voluntarily quit as you go through, and it can't be because of a labor dispute that you're unemployed in the process. Workers' compensation and the different conditions for it, and also COBRA. Take care.